Get the unmissable news stories of the day.
This is the Beijing Hour.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Tian Lu with you on this Friday, June the 5th, 2026. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, coming to you live from the Chinese capital. On today's program, Chinese President Xi Jinping has held talks with his counterpart from Laos. US President Donald Trump has indicated a possible meeting with Iran's supreme leader if the two sides reach a deal. And as Africa battles the Ebola outbreak, a Chinese health worker shares his perspective from the ground. In business, China unveils new rules for outbound investment. In sports, Russian teenager Mira Andreeva storms into her first Grand Slam final at the French Open. In culture and entertainment, uncovering the secrets behind China's ancient terracotta warriors. Now checking today's top stories. Chinese President Xi Jinping has held talks with his Lao counterpart in Beijing. The Lao president is on a state visit to China. During his time in Beijing, Tulun Sislith visited the China Academy of Space Technology. He said he firmly believes that China's space program will continue to bring more good news to the world since it brought lunar soil back from the moon. The Lao delegation viewed spacecraft developed by the Academy in fields including crewed spaceflight, deep space exploration, navigation, communication, and remote sensing. The Lao ambassador to China said the two countries have huge potential for further cooperation.
Very impressed us about the progress of development in terms of technology in China. So China is one of the most advanced country in the world 10 years ago. So thanks to the first satellites using the technology of China. So this is very useful for us for develop our economy, social economy. No, in the fields of agriculture, environment protection and so on, and education also.
The General Secretary of the Lao People's Revolutionary Party Central Committee has also visited the party school of the CPC Central Committee in Beijing, where he studied in 2000. Lutheray has more.
The first stop was the room where President Talon Sisulat stayed for a month while studying in 2000. He reflected on how quickly time has passed since that time. In his speech, Talon recalled his experience as a student and expressed appreciation for the support the school has provided to Lao officials and students.
We should further strengthen cooperation between our two sides and enhance exchanges and development between the party schools of Laos and China. I thank the Chinese teachers for sharing their valuable experience, especially their experience from the early stages of national development. This reflects the political mutual trust between our two countries, and we will never forget it.
The two sides also agreed to further strengthen bilateral cooperation and exchanges.
That was Lutheray reporting. Supak Soni Silapet is a news anchor and journalist from Lao National Television. He says cooperation between China and Laos has brought changes to Laos' economic and social development.
As a journalist covering the Laos-China cooperation, I've witnessed the tangible benefits of these projects, bringing to Laos' development. The Laos-China Railway is a clear example. It has improved connectivity, reduced logistics costs, and boosted trade and tourism, and enhanced access to regional markets. By March 2026, cargo transport has exceeded 80 million tons, including over 18 million tons of cross-border freight. China is also Laos's largest foreign investor, with more than $18 billion invested into the infrastructure, energy, agriculture, mining, and the digital economy. These investments support economic growth, create jobs, and strengthen human resource development. In the energy sector, the China-Laos 500 kilovolt power grid interconnection project is helping enhance energy security and support Laos' goal of becoming a regional energy hub. At the same time, cooperation in agriculture and digital economy is creating a new opportunity for farmers and young entrepreneurs through improved technology, productivity, and market access.
Cultural and people-to-people ties are also vital for the future of bilateral relations.
From my observation, young generation in Laos are developing a stronger connection with China through growing exchanges in education, culture, tourism, media, and people-to-people cooperation. Events such as the Laos-China Film Festival and the China-Laos Tea Culture Exchange has helped promote mutual understanding, while scholarship programs and educational projects have provided valuable opportunities for Laos students. Cooperation in healthcare and community development has also brought tangible benefits to local people. Tourism is another important bridge between our two countries. China remains one of the largest source of visitors to Laos, creating more opportunities for cultural exchange and closer people-to-people ties. I believe that these connections are vital for the future of Laos-China relations. While infrastructure and economic cooperations are important, it is the friendship, trust, and understanding between our peoples, especially among young people, that will ensure the long-term success of the Laos-China community with a shared future. As both countries celebrate the 65th anniversary of diplomatic relations and the year of the China-Laos friendship, these exchanges will continue to strengthen the traditional bonds between our two nations and bring greater benefits to future generations.
That was Supak Soni Silapet, a news anchor and journalist from Lao National Television. Beyond growing economic ties, people-to-people exchanges between China and Laos have flourished in recent years. A Lao educator is helping bring the two cultures closer together in southwest China. Yang Jinhao reports from Kunming, Yunnan Province.
For Putavon Vyangse, becoming a teacher marks a new chapter in life. After earning his PhD last year, he joined Yunnan Minzu University, where he now teaches the Lao language, his mother tongue.
I enjoy being a teacher. I like sharing what I know and passing on my experience to others. For me, it's a rewarding profession.
Vyangse's journey in China began in 2015, when he arrived in Yunnan Province to pursue a master's degree.
After watching Chinese films, I started to wonder what China was really like, and I began to have this small dream of coming here. What attracted me most was China's development, especially in technology and its big cities.
A decade of study has taken him from an international student to a university lecturer. As a young teacher, he aims to make his classes informative and engaging.
In my classes, I also introduce Lao culture, including local food, and encourage students to experience it. When I see them enjoying the class and speaking more actively, I feel very proud.
Vyangse's story reflects the growing ties between China and ASEAN countries. Once a niche field, the study of regional languages is becoming increasingly popular in China.
In the future, I want to go to Laos to teach Chinese to children and help promote cultural exchanges between us.
Now that the China-Laos Railway is open, I think studying the Lao language offers great opportunities for future development.
Indeed, the cross-border railway has further strengthened connectivity across the region. Official data shows that to date, the line has handled some 850,000 cross-border passenger trips and around 20 million tons of cross-border cargo. Vyangse says this growing connectivity has made his work even more meaningful.
Many Lao language graduates go on to start businesses in Laos. Their work can help create jobs and bring employment opportunities to local communities.
Having built a family in Yunnan, Vyangse considers the province his second home and a strong foundation for pursuing his long-term goals.
I hope to become an excellent Lao language teacher and help train more outstanding students. At the same time, I'd like to become a content creator, sharing my life and professional knowledge with friends in both China and Laos.
From student to teacher, Vyangse has already come a long way. Yet for him, the journey of learning, sharing, and connecting across cultures is only just beginning.
That was Yang Jinhao reporting. Coming up, US President Donald Trump has indicated a possible meeting with Iran's supreme leader if the two sides reach a deal.
China has unveiled a landmark reform that could affect hundreds of millions of migrant workers and their families. Supporters say it's a breakthrough for fairness and opportunity. Critics wonder whether cities can afford it and whether implementation will match ambition. Could this unleash new consumer spending and housing demand? Will China's biggest cities become even more attractive? And what happens to smaller cities if talent and people keep flowing away? This week at the Chat Lounge, we explore whether China is entering the next phase of urbanization and what that means for the country's future. Listen wherever you get your podcasts and on CGTN Radio.
US President Donald Trump says Washington does not need a deal with Tehran to get enriched uranium from the country. He says a meeting with Iranian Supreme Leader Mujtaba Khamenei is possible if a deal is reached. Meanwhile, domestic pressure is mounting as several Republicans joined with Democrats to seek to end the war. Fairclough reports from Washington, D.C.
The proposed deal to permanently end the conflict between the US and Israel and Iran is filled with ambiguities. Those were the words of the advisor to Iran's supreme leader talking to Iranian state TV and complaining that Iran is being asked for specific commitments while they allege that the US is being very vague about its own commitments to end this conflict. Iran is unhappy about the US demands, any one of which are extremely complicated right now, ranging from enriched uranium to the withdrawal of US forces from the region, much less a broader end to the conflict between Hezbollah and Israel in Lebanon. A little later on Thursday, Donald Trump, the US president, upped the ante in the Oval Office, telling reporters he would be prepared to meet Iran's supreme leader in person if it meant it would lead to a permanent deal between these two sides. Also saying that he doesn't need this kind of deal to get hold of Iran's disputed enriched uranium. It's the enriched uranium that's at the center of this conflict. Iran insisting it's merely for civilian or peaceful purposes. The US long alleging that Iran is trying to build a nuclear weapon. Here's what Trump had to say a little earlier on Thursday.
We could get it right now. I don't think they could stop us if we wanted, but there's no reason to. It's entombed. You use a good word. It's entombed.
And we've heard that you want to meet with the new Ayatollah, the new supreme leader.
I don't want to meet, but if I did meet, I'd be honored to meet him. I'd like to see if we make a deal.
Trump's contention about Iran's enriched uranium came on the same day that the United Nations released its latest report, warning member states that the whereabouts of that enriched uranium is still unknown and asking Iran once again for inspectors to be allowed to go into the country and assess the state of that disputed enriched uranium. So if there's pressure on this deal amid a fragile ceasefire, there's also increasing pressure on Trump on the domestic front, with his own Republicans, 4 of them, defecting and siding with Democrats in the lower US House of Representatives on Wednesday to pass what's called a War Powers Resolution Act. It's highly symbolic, but it would effectively restrain Trump from taking any further action against Iran without congressional approval. Remember, Trump started this conflict without consulting the US Congress. Trump rounded on those 4 lawmakers who've all said that as this war continues, as this conflict continues, their own constituents are starting to be harmed, not least by rising energy prices.
That was Fairclough in Washington. Iranian Supreme Leader Mujtaba Khamenei has urged Iranians to stand firm against what he described as the enemy's hybrid warfare. The stalemate continues, with Iran rejecting US President Donald Trump's claim that it's moving toward approving a deal, as Nkivani reports.
Iran's supreme leader issued a warning on Thursday saying the country's enemies have been defeated on the battlefield, but we're now trying to undermine public resilience and sow internal division. In a message to mark the 37th anniversary of the death of the Islamic Republic's founder and former supreme leader Ayatollah Khomeini, Mujtaba Khamenei described the Iranian nation as faithful, intelligent, and courageous, the true owners and source of the country's power. He warned that the US-led global system of domination opposes Iran's identity and spirit. Meanwhile, Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has denied US President Trump's claim that Iran is moving toward approving a deal, saying Tehran has suspended message exchanges and provided no response to a draft understanding. Iran's Revolutionary Guards, meanwhile, have denied attacking Kuwait's airport, saying that footage of Wednesday's strikes had been fabricated by enemies. The Iran-US stalemate continues, with Tehran ruling out negotiations as long as Israel continues to attack Lebanon. The IRGC called support for Lebanon's resistance a duty and also said that removing Israel from the region was an achievable objective. It said the minimum demand would be Israel's withdrawal to its pre-40-day war position.
That was Esin Kivani reporting. Israeli attacks on Lebanon continue despite an agreement by the two sides to implement a US-brokered ceasefire. Lebanese media reported that at least 9 people were killed and dozens injured in Israeli strikes, while Israel says an officer was killed by a Hezbollah drone. The UN Secretary-General urged all parties to respect the ceasefire deal. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun says the truce can take effect as soon as it receives guarantees that it will be honored. But he warns this is the last opportunity, and if it falls apart, all sides shoulder responsibility. Hezbollah and Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps have demanded full Israeli withdrawal and a full ceasefire. Hezbollah chief Naim Qassem says resistance against Israel will continue as long as Israeli occupation and attacks on Lebanon persist. Yoel Abdafid reports.
According to Israeli military sources, that they say that rockets have been fired from southern Lebanon into northern Israel. So that is on top of the rejection in terms of the comments made by Naim Qassem, the leader of Hezbollah. And now it seems that there is concrete evidence of it. But don't forget that the Israelis have also been bombing inside Lebanon. That hasn't stopped either. So this ceasefire was always precarious. It was always difficult. And even the president of Lebanon, Joseph Aoun, said it may take 24 hours for it to kick in. I think we can see now that that looks less likely. And I think those comments by Naim Qassem on behalf of Hezbollah, you know, when he said he was shameless that the Lebanese government was negotiating with Israel and that it was tantamount to surrender and defeat. So it doesn't look like Hezbollah is going to do what the Americans and the Israelis and possibly the European countries are hoping for it to do, which is to lay down its arms and pull out of that southern Lebanon. I mean, that's partly why the European Council announced a support package of $116 million today to help the military in Lebanon, not in any military sense in terms of weapons, but to help with training and logistics for when they can move into southern Lebanon and control that area and control a ceasefire. That looks a lot less likely now. And, you know, the casualty figures came out today as well. 3,500 people have been killed in southern Lebanon since the Israelis began attacking, and more than 10,000 people have been wounded. Well, I think we're looking at more casualties now in the future.
That was Yoel Abdafid reporting. Gaza health officials say at least 10 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli strikes in the Gaza Strip. Medics say Israeli aircraft struck 4 apartments before dawn on Thursday, killing 9 people and wounding at least 15. Another airstrike on Gaza City killed a person and wounded several others. Civil Defense spokesperson Mahmoud Basil says rescue teams are at many sites. Despite a ceasefire between Hamas and Israel last October, Gaza authorities say 947 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli attacks since then. The UN says a team from the Office of Special Missions has found dozens of chemical weapons in Syria, undeclared to the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. It includes the same type of aerial bombs used in the chemical attacks on 2 Syrian cities in 2017. At the UN Security Council, China reaffirmed its opposition to the use of chemical weapons by any country, organization, or individual under any circumstances. Its deputy permanent representative to the UN said that any such act should be strongly condemned. Sun Lei called on all parties to work towards an early closure of the file on Syria's chemical weapons. He also said the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons should adhere to its mandate. Russian President Vladimir Putin says Moscow is prepared to discuss peace with Ukraine. He proposed a meeting at a U.S. military base in Alaska. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky earlier suggested direct talks with Putin. Putin says Russia is ready to accept the compromises he discussed with U.S. President Donald Trump at the summit in Anchorage in August. He says Ukraine must also agree, adding that the conflict could then come to what he calls a natural conclusion. Ukraine had rejected the Anchorage framework, which calls for Kyiv to cede territory. Zelensky published an open letter to Putin on Thursday, proposing direct talks, a complete ceasefire during negotiations, and an all-for-all prisoner exchange. The Kremlin says Zelensky can come to Moscow anytime if he wishes to hold talks. A Russian presidential special envoy also says talks between Russia and the US on Ukraine have made progress. Coming up, as Africa battles the Ebola outbreak, a Chinese health worker shares his perspective from the ground.
You've been listening to programs from CGTN Radio.
CGTN Radio.
We invite you to visit us online for more audio, pictures, and in-depth reports. At radio.cgtn.com, you can access a wide range of programs and find your favorite news, talk, features, entertainment shows, and podcasts. Hear the difference with CGTN Radio.
A Chinese health worker on the World Bank infrastructure project in the Democratic Republic of the Congo says daily life continues largely unaffected despite the Ebola outbreak being classified as extremely high risk. Wang Zihang has more.
Wang Xiao has been working for several months in Butembo, North Kivu province, along the Beni-Goma commercial corridor. He says 2 cases have been reported locally, and so far he has not seen any significant drop in commercial activity or pedestrian traffic. However, he has noticed that more people are taking precautions, such as wearing masks.
From my personal observation since the outbreak began, I haven't really seen fewer pedestrians on this main road I travel every day. More people are wearing masks, but commercial and production activities are still going on.
Wang's team distributes masks and checks temperatures daily. He said local employees cooperate quite well with the mask distribution and daily temperature checks.
I give a health briefing for them about once a week, covering the 3 key elements of Ebola: sources of infection, transmission routes, and susceptible populations, as well as how to prevent and treat it. We distribute masks to local employees every day.
Wang said that his team has testing protocols in place for emergencies. So far, no workers have shown any symptoms.
Our emergency plan is that for employees who only have a fever as a symptom, we first consider malaria and conduct a rapid test. We have rapid test strips for malaria and typhoid fever, so we can start by ruling this out. If both rapid tests come back negative, we then observe whether any other accompanying symptoms develop, and also check for any history of travel or contact exposure.
Wang also mentioned increased activity by international aid groups along the corridor, including the UN World Food Programme, as the region continues to manage the outbreak. For the Beijing Hour, I'm Wang Zihang.
Rice is a staple food for millions of people across West Africa, but the region still produces far less rice than it consumes, spending billions of dollars each year on imports to meet growing demand. To reverse the trend, government officials, investors, and development partners are meeting in the capital of Ghana to discuss how to finance a long-term plan to boost rice production and strengthen food security across the region. Nabil Ahmed Rufai reports.
Maimunatu Alasan processes locally grown rice in northern Ghana. She says imported rice continues to dominate the market, leaving locally produced rice struggling to compete.
Currently, our main challenge is how to get necessary equipment for the processing.
Rice is one of the main dishes in many households across West Africa, yet much of what people eat is imported. The dependence leaves the region vulnerable to global price shocks, supply chain disruptions, and food insecurity.
Our ambition is clear: to build competitive, inclusive, and sustainable agri-food systems that strengthen food sovereignty, create jobs, and drives shared prosperity, while achieving regional rice self-sufficiency by 2035.
Agriculture experts estimate that rice production in West Africa currently meets only about 60% of regional demand. They believe closing that gap could create jobs, reduce import bills, and strengthen food security. Many of the leaders meeting here in Accra say West Africa already has what it takes to grow more of the rice it consumes. The challenge now is how to bring together the investment and infrastructure needed to help farmers produce more and reduce the region's reliance on imports. The West African Regional Bloc, ECOWAS, wants to raise $24 billion to support the development of the region's rice value chain.
Clearly, transformational capital means more than money. It means patient capital that funds irrigation, not just seasonal inputs. It means risk-tolerant capital that invests in storage, milling, logistics, and processing, not just commodity trading. It means strategic regional capital that sees a West African rice economy, not fragmented national markets separated by borders.
As West Africa looks to grow more of its own food, farmers and processors like Maimunatu Alasan say they will be watching closely to see whether the plans unveiled here can deliver lasting change.
That was Nabil Ahmed Rufai reporting. Many countries in Europe have reported record high temperatures. Spain recorded 101 heat-related deaths last month, making it the deadliest May since national monitoring began in 2015. Health authorities say that's more than 3 times higher than the average numbers of heat deaths in May over the past decade. In Italy, a tornado hit Rome, damaging cars and buildings. About 60 trees were toppled within minutes. Sicily has also reported scorching temperatures. Now it's 29 minutes past the hour, checking the forecast before the break. Beijing will have thunder showers tonight, easing to light rain tomorrow. The low is 15 and it's up to 20 on Saturday. Shanghai will be overcast tonight and tomorrow with a low of 21 and a high of 28. Chongqing will be cloudy tonight with moderate rain developing tomorrow, a low of 24 and a high of 35. Nanchang will see showers tonight, thunder showers tomorrow with a low of 25 and a high of 30. Lhasa will be cloudy tonight and tomorrow with a low of 11 and a high of 26. Elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad will be cloudy tonight and tomorrow. The low is 23 and it's up to 36 on Saturday. Vientiane will have moderate rain tonight and tomorrow with a low of 25 and a high of 31. Phnom Penh will see light rain tonight and tomorrow with a low of 25 and a high of 35. In Africa, Nairobi will have light rain tonight and tomorrow. The low is 15 and it's up to 24 on Saturday. Kampala will see moderate rain tonight, easing to light tomorrow with a low of 18 and a high of 25. Now it's time for a short break. So far this hour, Chinese President Xi Jinping has held talks with his counterpart from Laos. Tianlu with you. Stay with us here on the Beijing Hour.
From the refreshing cup of tea that starts your morning to the paper that you write on, the roots of many familiar parts of modern life can be traced back to ancient ideas. Join us on Made in Ancient China and discover how ideas born millennia ago became some of the world's greatest treasures. Made in Ancient China brings you stories of human ambition, inspiration, and connection. Now available on all major podcast platforms.
Shh, listen up. Can you hear the heartbeat of our world? It's vibrant and pulsating with the essence of life itself. From the stem of trees to the gurgle of rivers. From the silent strength of mountains to the icy whispers of glaciers. Even the solid ground beneath our feet. Right there, in the midst of all, beats the heart of humanity. What if those other heartbeats were to stop? Would ours keep on ticking?
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Tianlu with you on this Friday. Still to come. In business, China unveils new rules for outbound investment. In sports, Russian teenager Mira Andreeva storms into her first Grand Slam final at the French Open. In culture and entertainment, uncovering the secrets behind China's ancient terracotta warriors. To contact us, you can email radio@cgtn.com or follow our X account @cgtnradio. But first, checking today's headlines. China has announced that General Secretary Xi Jinping of the Communist Party of China Central Committee will pay a state visit to the Democratic People's Republic of Korea on Monday and Tuesday. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning has confirmed the visit, noting it is the leader's first trip to Pyongyang in 7 years. The ministry says the two leaders will discuss bilateral ties and issues of mutual concern. This year marks the 65th anniversary of the China-DPRK Treaty of Friendship, Cooperation and Mutual Assistance, and Beijing says the visit aims to further boost regional peace and cooperation. Heavy rainfall has swept across much of China over the past 2 days. In Guizhou province, Zhongjiang County reported its worst rainfall since the start of the flood season. The downpour caused the roads to collapse, flooded farmlands, and damaged houses. Officials have relocated more than 1,500 residents. Heavy rain also lashed cities in Jiangxi province, with more than 100 millimeters of rainfall reported within 3 hours. Sections of highways were submerged, forcing toll stations to close. Meteorologists forecast more rain in the province over the next few days. In northern China, Tianjin and Hebei reported hail, rainfall, thunder, and lightning. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has condemned the killing of a peacekeeper in southern Lebanon and is calling for restraint. UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric made the statement following the death of a Serbian soldier serving with the UN interim force in Lebanon known as UNIFIL.
We had some pretty unpleasant news coming from Lebanon, where another one of our UN peacekeepers was killed. Sergeant Milan Jovanovic of Serbia's 27th Mechanized Battalion died early this morning from critical injuries sustained when a mortar shell hit his position near Maryaoun in southern Lebanon. The Secretary General condemns the killing of our peacekeeping colleague. He expresses his deepest condolences to the families, to the friends and colleagues of the peacekeeper who died, and to the government and people of Serbia.
The statement said the 2 injured peacekeepers are receiving treatment. An investigation is underway. 7 UNIFIL peacekeepers have been killed since hostilities escalated in Lebanon on March the 2nd. Guterres said these attacks are grave violations of international law and may amount to war crimes. He called on all parties to protect UN personnel and property and to hold those responsible accountable. The Secretary-General also urged all sides to respect the cessation of hostilities agreement announced on April the 16th between Israel and Lebanon. The UN says it remains committed to supporting diplomatic efforts to extend the truce. Palestinian Ambassador Riyad Mansour says the UN Security Council should act now, warning that Israel is exploiting the war to annex occupied Palestinian land and destroy the two-state solution. Speaking in New York, he accused Israel of expanding settlements to divide the West Bank and occupying over half of Gaza. Mansour called for accountability, saying crimes must stop.
We cannot continue waiting as it relates to the question of Palestine until things to be sorted out in the region. You know that the war in the Gulf region and also what's happening in Lebanon and the aggression against them. If we keep waiting, then this extreme Israeli government will sneak in under the smoke of the war and try, to make decisive changes in the occupied Palestinian territory through annexation, destructions of the hope of the two-state solution, and making the miserable situation in the Gaza Strip to even more miserable situation.
Backed by Arab and OIC nations, Mansour said a joint letter has been sent to the Security Council demanding an end to Israel's policies. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in business, China unveils new rules for outbound investment.
The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
36 minutes past the hour, turning to business. Here's Tianyu.
Thank you, Tianlu. Stock markets on the Chinese mainland closed lower on Friday. The Shanghai Composite was down over 0.7%, while the Shenzhen Component lost almost 2.2%. Aerospace equipment and digital media shares were among the top gainers. In Hong Kong, the Hang Seng Index declined almost 1.2%, and in Japan, the Nikkei dropped nearly 1.3%. As Chinese companies increasingly expand their presence overseas, China has introduced a new regulatory framework for outbound investment. Designed to promote high-standard opening up and support the high-quality development of overseas investment, the new rules aim to offer clearer guidance for businesses and enhance the stability of China's outward direct investment. Olivia He has more.
The rules apply to all domestic enterprises, institutions, and individual residents in China. Any activity where investors acquire ownership or related rights over overseas companies and assets via capital injection, equity contribution, counts as outbound investment under official definition. The regulation draws clear regulatory boundaries. Without official approval, investors are prohibited from exporting or utilizing restricted goods, technologies, services, and relevant data in overseas investment. Covered transfer of restricted resources by dispatching technical personnel to work abroad is also banned. For the first time, specific penalties for illegal outbound investment are specified. Regulators may order violators to suspend prohibited investment, dispose of overseas assets within a time limit, and confiscate illegal gains. Those refusing compliance face fines of up to 1% of the total investment value. Experts note the new rules do not mark a policy shift toward curbing outbound investment in China. Instead, they equip authorities with clearer legal grounds for investor protection and reciprocal countermeasures.
So, in my opinion, I would say the Chinese government is trying to improve the efficiency and also the stabilities of the China's outward direct investment. As China is playing a more and more important role in the global outward investment region, I would say that it is likely that the Chinese government should do more to help the enterprises to enjoy the beneficiaries by investing in other countries in the proper ways. So this kind of a new regulation is not just trying to regulate the Chinese enterprises themselves, but also trying to give our better and clearer signals to the world, like the home countries for the investment. We would like to open our channels for cooperation with the local governments on improving the stabilities of the investment. I think that China's outward investment is growing very fast. It's not only on the traditional industries, but also in many of these new and innovative industries. So we are facing so many uncertainties about some of the possible technical improvement or the threats to do with national security. It is not only the concerns of China, but also for other partners.
Experts widely agree that the core purpose of the regulation is to enhance cross-government coordination and policy transparency. This will provide a more predictable environment for outbound investment, benefiting not only Chinese investors but also their overseas partners seeking stable long-term growth.
And that was Olivia He reporting. China's overall outbound direct investment remained strong throughout 2025, fueled by the Belt and Road Initiative. Earlier this year, China's Commerce Ministry reported that ODI grew by more than 7% in US dollar terms last year. In recent years, Chinese companies have created over 2 million overseas jobs annually, with a focus on infrastructure projects in healthcare, environmental protection, and other public welfare sectors. By the end of 2025, Chinese investors established more than 50,000 overseas companies across nearly 190 countries and regions. China's ODI stock has ranked third globally for 9 consecutive years. China's trade in services maintained positive growth during the first 4 months of the year, with exports expanding robustly and the trade deficit narrowing significantly. According to the Commerce Ministry, China's total trade in services reached nearly 2.5 trillion yuan, or around $367 billion, up 4.9% on a yearly basis. Exports stood at 985 billion yuan, surging 15%, while imports exceeded 1.5 trillion yuan, down 0.8%. The services trade deficit shrank to 515 billion yuan, narrowing by around 140 billion compared with the same period last year. Knowledge-intensive services continue to drive export growth. Trade in this category reached 1.1 trillion yuan, up 5.1%, and accounting for over 44% of overall services trade. Meanwhile, travel service exports dropped 30.4% to 147 billion yuan, the fastest growth rate among the top 5 service export categories. Chinese stocks continued to gain recognition from global index providers, with technology companies now taking the lead. In its latest review, the UK's FTSE Russell added 5 stocks to its FTSE China A50 index, including chipmaker GigaDevice and IC design firm Montage Technology. The index is a widely followed benchmark for China's largest A-share companies. Earlier this year, MSCI incorporated 19 China A-shares into its indices, many of which are tied to AI infrastructure. These additions underscore rising investor interest in China's innovation-driven sectors. Foreign holdings of A-shares have now surpassed 4 trillion yuan, or about $590 billion, increasing by over 1 trillion yuan since the end of 2025. The index tracking the development of China's bulk commodity market continued to rise in May. The index stood at 132.5 last month, up over 20% on a yearly basis and 0.3% on a monthly basis. According to China Federation of Logistics and Purchasing, the bulk commodity market remained stable last month, demonstrating good resilience in the face of external shocks. Experts say external risk remains relatively high at present, and pressure on enterprise production and operations has increased. It is still necessary to strengthen macroeconomic regulation, further stimulate economic growth, and consolidate the positive market trend. The Secretary-General of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries says global demand for oil is expected to remain robust this year. Haytham Al-Ghassis says there have been no signs sufficient to change existing oil demand forecasts. He also says investment in the oil industry should not be affected by one-off events occurring anywhere in the world. The Secretary-General made the remarks on the sidelines of the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum in Russia. Meanwhile, Russian Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak says he expects oil production in the country to recover to previous levels. Dasha Chernoshova reports from Moscow.
Discussions that have centered around the prices on oil resources, on oil and other energy resources, with the Russian Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak saying Thursday that actually the uncertainty about gas, oil and energy prices is something that is going to affect the entire global economic growth, because the change in logistics, the lack of tankers, the deficit of oil energy resources, and obviously the higher prices for oil, they are going to affect the global global economic growth, the global economic outlook. And he said that in his discussions with the energy minister of Saudi Arabia, Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman, they have agreed that no one actually knows what to expect when it comes to the demand for the energy resources, because there are so many unknowns. The reason is obviously the conflict in the Middle East, but there are many other issues that are at play as well. And they are saying that OPEC Plus is actually the alliance that is going to have the stabilizing role here, the stabilizing factor. The Russian deputy prime minister has been saying that the oil market is already facing a deficit with around 12 million barrels per day not being supplied each day. And this is something that is being balanced out by the reserves that have already been accumulated. So in that sense, obviously, all eyes are now on how OPEC Plus countries are going to be balancing it out. But obviously, there is the understanding that it has a major role to play here. Speaking about the Russian parts, and Russia's oil production has been lower than at the beginning of 2026. We are hearing that the Russian oil refineries are now going to the unscheduled maintenance, obviously with reference here to the Ukrainian drone strikes. And the hope among the Russian officials is that Russia's energy output will stabilize. We are seeing the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum being the venue where these issues are being discussed, with the OPEC Secretary General expecting the robust oil demand growth and saying that their estimates are not changing. But at the same time, we are seeing that many countries of the world are coming to Russia now, seeking more energy resources and more energy supplies from the Russian side in light of that instability worldwide.
And that was Dasha Chernyshova reporting.
Thank you very much. And that was Tianyu with Business. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in sports, Russian teenager Mira Andreeva storms into her first Grand Slam final at the French Open.
Sideline Story brings you all things sports related. The hottest topics, latest events, juiciest stories, all with a very personal take. Subscribe to Sideline Story Podcast for heated sports discussions covering events that are happening in China and around the world.
Turning to sports, here's Yang Guang.
Thank you, Tianlu. Russian teenager Mira Andreeva has reached her first Grand Slam final after a convincing semi-final victory at the French Open. The 19-year-old became the youngest women's singles Grand Slam finalist since 2022 and said she was delighted to achieve the milestone on one of tennis' biggest stages.
I never actually thought that I would be able to win, big tournaments or be in a Grand Slam finals. It was just all my dreams, everything that I've been dreaming of. For me personally, it's like the number one goal in my life, the most important thing, the number one dream also. And I would not think that I would be very close to that. But now, I am. So I'm very excited, very happy about it. But at that time, I wouldn't think that it would happen.
Awaiting her in the championship match is one of the tournament's biggest surprises. Polish qualifier Maja Hezbollah continued her remarkable run in Paris to reach the final, becoming only the second women's qualifier in the Open era to make a Grand Slam final. Ranked outside the world's top 100, Hezbollah described her achievements as a dream and said she's trying to stay composed despite the emotions.
I honestly don't know what was going on in my head. I was just in such a shock, joy, surprise, so many emotions, So I was just I feel like overwhelmed also. Now I know that my ranking will allow me to play more in the highest tournaments, ranked tournaments. So I guess we'll see how I'll continue. But for now, I'm just, trying to focus on just one more match.
The French Open Women's Final will now feature two rising stars chasing a breakthrough Grand Slam title. As for other French Open action, defending champions Sara Errani and Andreeva Vasari claimed the mixed doubles title by defeating Gabriela Dabrowski and Evan Kane. The Italians have won 4 majors together out of the last 7. In badminton, China's top mixed doubles pair Feng Yanzhe and Huang Dongping have booked their place in the quarterfinals of the Indonesia Open after overcoming a strong challenge from Indonesia's Adnan Maulana and Indah Taya Sari Jamal. The world number 1 duo came through a hard-fought 3-game contest in their first ever meeting with the Indonesian pair. After taking the opening game, Feng and Huang saw their opponents battle back to the leveled match before the Chinese pair regained control in the decider. Feng Yanzhe stressed the pair's adjustment during the match.
The third game unfolded much like the second, but our tactics were poorly executed. Fortunately, we adjusted in time and stopped to use our weaker skills during the final 2 points.
The victory sent Feng and Huang into the last 8, where they will face fellow Chinese pair Chen Xin and Zhang Chi for place in the semi-finals. In the men's singles, Thailand's unseeded Panichpan Tirara Thakur came from behind to stun China's world number 7 Li Shifeng and advanced to the quarterfinals. Next up for the Thai shuttler in the last 8 is Frenchman Alex Lanier. Spain and France faced mixed results in the World Cup warm-ups on Thursday. Spain was held to a 1-1 draw by Iraq in La Coruña despite dominating possession. Ferran Torres gave Spain the lead, but Iraq equalized before half-time and held firm. Coach Luis de la Fuente rested several regulars while giving debuts to young players. Spain will play Peru in its final warm-up before opening against Cape Verde. Meanwhile, 2018 champion France suffered a 2-1 defeat to Côte d'Ivoire in Nantes. Ryan Cherki put France ahead before half-time, but the visitors struck twice after the break, with Amad Diallo scoring the winner. Coach Didier Deschamps described the loss as part of preparations.
We have to accept what happened. Côte d'Ivoire did certain things better than we did, particularly in terms of pace and attacking penetration. We created far fewer chances, and once they equalized, it clearly gave them momentum. Then, while I don't want to take any credit away from them, we also made mistakes that led to their second goal. I'm not frustrated. I wouldn't be euphoric if we had won either, although winning would obviously have given me more satisfaction. This is part of the preparation process.
France, the 2022 World Cup runner-up, will open its campaign against Senegal in New York on June 16th. And finally, Austria has arrived in Los Angeles to begin the final stage of preparations for its first World Cup appearance since 1998. Ralf Rangnick's squad will continue training in California before opening its Group J campaign against Jordan later this month, with further matches against the defending champions Argentina and Algeria to follow. Austria earned its place at the tournament after topping its qualifying group and will now settle into its base camp in Santa Barbara as it prepares for the competition. Rangnick says the focus is now on helping the players adjust to their surroundings and begin training.
We will probably drive about 3 hours to Santa Barbara to the team base camp and then check into our rooms. On Friday, we will have our first practice, and it will be a public practice. And then we will also have a little time set aside to show the players around and get to know the area a bit.
The Austrian coach remains optimistic about his team's prospects as they return to football's biggest stage after nearly 3 decades.
Thank you very much. And that was Yang Guang with sports. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in culture and entertainment, uncovering the secrets behind China's ancient terracotta warriors.
From north to south, east to west, people in China are chasing their dreams and leaving their mark. Want to know how they beat the odds and made a difference? Footprints brings you the true life stories of their journeys.
Turning to culture and entertainment, China's terracotta warriors have fascinated archaeologists and historians since its discovery more than 50 years ago. Yet many mysteries still surround the thousands of sculptures that guard the tomb of the country's first emperor. Jeff Moody met a team of archaeologists uncovering the secrets behind this remarkable find.
When farmers discovered buried clay statues in 1974, they had no idea how significant or how vast their discovery was. Life-size, lifelike warriors forged more than 2,000 years ago.
But we haven't even scratched the surface. Thousands of these warriors are at the mausoleum, but there are possibly tens of thousands that have not yet been dug up. The more answers we get, the more questions, and that's fascinating.
Getting to those answers, a collaboration, decades strong, between scholars from University College London and Chinese archaeologists. Chief amongst the secrets they're hoping to unearth, how did such an early civilization go about creating so many statues on such a scale?
So there's a suggestion that there was conscript and convict and captive labor from other parts of this emergent empire, on the one hand. On the other, it's very, very clear that there were a lot of specialist artisans involved. We can see that by little nuances, such as a lot of them started marking both the terracotta warriors with stamps or incised marks, but also the bronze weapons that those warriors held in their hands.
The excavation site just outside Xi'an in central China spans 56 square kilometres, and it's believed this is just the tip of the iceberg. Experts say the mausoleum offers a valuable insight into how a unified China first came into existence.
I guess we sort of see it as a window on that wider world. If we understand the way in which the empire is starting to mobilize craftspeople to produce this mega project, we also start to understand how they're mobilizing people more widely to, for example, conquer all of these neighboring states and then unify China for the first time.
Dr. Li Xiujian was one of the first to work in the mausoleum and was instrumental in setting up the partnership between Chinese archaeologists and University College London.
We really like for the museum like to have like international collaboration. So the research can be a little bit broader view to see the mausoleum itself. Not like we just look at all these objects and materials, because like terracotta warriors also. But we're thinking probably from broader view to talk about, to research, to study this mausoleum.
It's a broader view that's bearing fruit. The collaboration between East and West, the sharing of knowledge and expertise is helping to ensure the legacy of China's first emperor is as alive today as it was when the warriors were first forged.
That was Jeff Moody reporting. A major exhibition exploring centuries of cultural exchange between China and the wider world has opened at the Hong Kong Palace Museum. Jointly organized by the Hong Kong Palace Museum and the Palace Museum in Beijing, the exhibition brings together more than 130 artifacts from leading museums in China and Qatar. It examines how diplomacy, trade, science, technology, and the arts connected China with other parts of Asia and Europe over the course of 6 centuries. China will celebrate its annual Cultural and Natural Heritage Day with a series of nationwide events centered in Wuhan, Hubei province. The country's top cultural heritage authority says this year's observance will emphasize the role of the public in preserving and benefiting from China's rich cultural legacy. The event also coincides with the 20th anniversary of Heritage Day. Beijing will have thunder showers tonight, easing to light rain tomorrow. The low is 15 and it's up to 20 on Saturday. Shanghai will be overcast tonight and tomorrow with a low of 21 and a high of 28. Chongqing will be cloudy tonight with moderate rain developing tomorrow, a low of 24 and a high of 35. Nanchang will see showers tonight, thunder showers tomorrow with a low of 25 and a high of 30. Lhasa will be cloudy tonight and tomorrow with a low of 11 and a high of 26. Elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad will be cloudy tonight and tomorrow. The low is 23 and it's up to 36 on Saturday. Vientiane will have moderate rain tonight and tomorrow with a low of 25 and a high of 31. Phnom Penh will see light rain tonight and tomorrow with a low of 25 and a high of 35. In Africa, Nairobi will have light rain tonight and tomorrow. The low is 15 and it's up to 24 on Saturday. Kampala will see moderate rain tonight, easing to light tomorrow with a low of 18 and a high of 25. That's it for this edition of the Beijing Hour Making News Today. Chinese President Xi Jinping has held talks with his counterpart from Laos. US President Donald Trump has indicated a possible meeting with Iran's supreme leader if the two sides reach a deal. On behalf of the staff, this is Tianlu in the Chinese capital, hoping you'll join us for the next edition of the Beijing Hour and open the window to the world together.
Find the Beijing Hour at precisely 6 p.m. Beijing time. We meet you on podcast and on air every weekday. The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
He can't live without the Yellow River in his eyes.
The Yellow River is so noble and elegant.
Both my grandpa and dad made a living from the river.
Would you like to move away from the Yellow River?
I
don't think I will. I love it so much.
The Yellow River,
The second longest river in China is regarded as a shaping force in the history, economy and culture of northern China. Today, about 100 million people live within its water basin, making up nearly 9% of the country's population. How is climate change felt at its headwaters, and what are the locals doing to cope with it? What are the descendants of the boatmen doing? What has kept some people from leaving their home village by the river, and what has drawn others back? Could the fading fishing community revive in a time of digital transformation? From 2021 to 2024, our reporters visited the upper, middle and lower reaches of the Yellow River, talked to the herders, farmers, boatmen, fishermen and eco-activists who share a close bond with the river, and present their stories in pictures, podcasts and videos, all in our 12-part series, The Yellow River Mosaic, available only on CGTN Radio